even though it's only like the Fatiha or something like that, but at the same time, they don't know how to respond to you because they're just a little bit intimidated by what you're saying because it's in a different language.
Let me respond to the first one first, and then I'm going to have Brother Sohail handle this one because this is much harder. The first one is, as Brother Sohail mentioned, that videos is a great source of information. YouTube, HalalTube, TeacherTube, I don't know if you use those. They're all great sources of information, and students will have an opportunity not just to hear, but also see at the same time, because they're used to saying iPads and iPhones and everything, and they are not just going to just listen to you for a long time. Therefore, if you have visuals for them, great. So once again, planning and preparation. When you prepare for that class, you be sure that you go on the internet and find out some of those cool stuff and then save them, and you can use those as a teaching tool. Okay, as far as abstract stuff, like as you said, surah, memorizing the whole surah, and what is concrete there. It looks like all abstract and it's all audio. Brother Sohail, you have an idea on that?
I can just share you some of the experiences that we had. First of all, remember, in all the Quranic studies portion, there is not only thing is the memorization is only a part of the whole syllabus. The reason I keep repeating that is, and we're going to repeat it in the second half of our session, is when you are using memorization, the memorization can be done in various ways. Look at the Humpty Dumpty. Okay, the way we narrate Humpty Dumpty and the kids learn that, or Baba Black Sheep or some other poetry, is these poems are the same type of scenario. You use those logics. One thing is very important that we have learned in this thing, that you don't use the whole surah to let them memorize the whole surah. You break it down, okay, and then you don't use the whole period to do that. So you have to divide your class into segment of minutes, 5 minutes maximum for a particular activity. If you go beyond that, then you need to have a way of engagement, because as I told you, the research basically stop at the point that when a particular person will be attentive. If you are listening, you can be attentive for a particular minutes, and these are minutes. You're not talking about like 30 minutes. I'm talking about less than 5 minutes. In some cases, it is less than 1 minute.
Usually for 5-year-olds, no more than 5 minutes.
Okay, and that attention, that is attention, and then attention takes to the retention portion, which is again a very hard part. Don't expect miracles to happen in that half an hour session that you are teaching. It will not going to happen. That's why you have 32 weeks. Okay. Break things down, and Dr. Saab said that most important thing is planning. How do you plan yourself in a short step-wise, that every step can be in the start of the game, you might be just walking rather than running. And I can say crawling basically. You can crawl, that's fine. The question is, you need to have a strategy to reach to the destination. So what portion of the topic you are going to cover, how to get them engaged. See, in the first, second grade, the most important thing for them to learn is the faith itself, and we'll talk about it. The faith itself, and the faith is here. Okay, it's not here, it will be here first. You make them learn something, you make them love something. You want to make them love Allah. Now, how do you make them love Allah? Allah, you have not seen them, they have not seen them, but the concept is there. He's all seeing. Okay, his eyes are there. Curiosity. See, with the way I'm talking, it's like telling them a story. And that will give them and say, wow, what is happening? Now, what I would love to see in the lower grades, and let me be very upfront, I don't see them very often. I want them to be very cozy. They are like this. This is not a good way. And that's our problem. That's administration problem, that we didn't give you a good classroom for that. Grade 1 and 2 have to be curled in. They have to be cuddled. They have to be closer. Because they need that thing. They need the love. They need the softness of each other. And that we fail to provide that. But if you bring them together, put a carpet, bring them together and do a narrative, do a storytelling. The best way for these grades is storytelling. We don't give you small chairs. We let them sit in a big chair. Their feet cannot touch the ground. That's our problem. We understand that we are not giving you those things. But trust me, because the way the curriculum is designed, they build upon each other. If you miss something, you will not hopefully miss anything. Because if a concept is there, they don't have to know the Hajj completely at that time. They need to know that it's a pillar. It's something that I have to have a faith in. Without that, my faith is incomplete. That is enough. They moved up, they will know over there that what is needed, why it is needed, and how it is done. That's the second step. The fourth and the last step, and the third step is what we call action. Either go with your mom and dad and perform one, or at least know that if you have performed it, how it will change you, show in your act. That's our strategy of our planning. Is that we can discuss those things, but I'll take
just regarding this. No, just one note. Imam Ali Layla, before Hajj, every year there is a session for people who are going to do Hajj. You know, I am 42 years old. I don't know fully all the steps of doing Hajj. And inshallah, before doing Hajj, I have to learn this. And when I go to Hajj, I will be fully, knowing it. It's the detailed knowledge about how to do the Hajj. You're not doing it actually. Maybe you're not going to do it at all. So giving the steps a thorough study of how the Hajj should be done, I don't believe the kids are going to learn too much from it. That's just one comment, that's all.
Inshallah, we are going to keep this discussion alive.
Right.
We'll keep this discussion because we are short
Right.
of time. And
So what we have,
wrap up
right,
now.
what we have learned from Brother Suhail's brief lecture burst is this, that you have to fragmentize your content. And then 5 minutes of this, 7 minutes of that, 8 minutes of that, that's number one. So that's your planning, part of your planning and preparation as to how do I fragmentize this. And as he said, well said, if the kids are 5-year-old, the activity should not be any longer than 5 minutes. Then you got to move into another activity. If they're 6-year-old, 6 minutes activity. If you stick around 6.5 minutes, that's fine. It's not going to hurt them. But if you have a 10-minute activity, you're going to lose a lot of them. So that's fragmentation of your content. That's important. Second thing is, what he said was that you are going to be focused on that time that you're broken part, that you have broken into, that this piece is going to take 5 minutes. How are you going to check for understanding as to whether or not they have learned? Okay, you have to find a way. How are you going to do formative assessment of whether or not they have had the mastery of that? Because your curriculum is built up on each step. Step 1, step 2, step 3. If they miss the first and second step, if you just want them to be on the third step, there is a problem. So you have to make sure that each step of the way, after each of those 5 or 6 minute activities, you go on the smartboard and you show, or whatever you have posted there, okay, these are our objectives. This is the first thing we are learning, that's the second thing, and so forth. First thing, we have just, the last 5 minutes we have done this, with what success? You sort of do a formative assessment on that. So, as I said, planning and preparation, you have to do it, fragmentize it when you do the planning. Second thing, when you are providing instruction, be sure that you mix it up with all the strategies that we talked about, not just all whole group, But cooperative learning or small group or think, pair, share or fishbowl or, inside, outside circle, write it all down as to what kind of instructional strategy you're going to be using in order for you to achieve success as a teacher, and then the students are going to achieve success as students, okay? And then the third step is, of course, the formative assessment. How are you going to really assess their learning? Because some students are at this level, some are at this level, and so forth. So these are the things that Brother Sohail said in his speech, in his lecture burst, short one, where planning, making sure that you fragmentize your curriculum. 2, you strategize as to how are you going to implement what you planned in your instructional strategies, and what kind of adaptations and accommodations are you going to be making for the students that are at low level or at too high level. And then, of course, assessment. If you do that at every level, you have to do that. Be sure that they are getting exactly what you are doing. But if they're at this, if your instruction is at this level, it's not going to work well. If it's at this level, you're going to lose the top kids. So I think Brother Sohail really explained it real well. And I'd like to see that you use some of those in order for you to be successful and effective. See, our job is not good teaching, effective teaching. When are we being effective? When the students are learning. And one good point he made about whether it's getting in there, if you keep practicing and drilling and remembering and repeating, hopefully at some point it's going to get in there. And of course, it's not up to you and I. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to open this up in order for it to get there. But our job is to find ways to repeat and reflect, so that retention takes place, right? You know the Ram distinction, right? Read only, and so exactly. So we want to make sure that it goes into their long-term memory, not the short-term memory, and that's why we have to use all those strategies and the planning and reflection and assessment.
I really appreciate and thanks Dr. Harun for this great morning session. The idea of this session was to gather some inputs from you guys so that we can formulate a better long seminar in the month of November and December. I really appreciate some of the input that I got, and I was the one who was basically totally against for today's lecture, by the way. Thanks for some of the other people who pushed me, saying that, it's good to have it just before the start of the session. And I really thank you, Sister Ruby, about that, because you based on your commitment to ensure to have this thing, I might not have agreed to it. But I think it's a great way of starting the session. Get motivated, get enthusiastic. And I really appreciate, again, Dr. Saab, thank you from the bottom of our heart for giving us such a great talk. We always want to learn something, and Allah will open this. He has the keys for air. This, we can do it. Thank you, sir. Jazakal Allah. For the Sunday school teachers, will you please stay put? We're going to use this room to do the class distribution, the syllabi and the handbooks distribution, and also the new things that we are bringing in for the coming year. So if you can stay put, I'll have Ahad and a couple of us will go and bring those stuff over here, rather than, yes. Yeah, we'll bring it over here, and we'll do it from here. Yeah.
I want to thank you all, and Jazakum Allah Khair for being here and giving me the opportunity to be with you. And once again, I would like to see a very successful year for all our students and all of us during the academic year. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. So we'll just stay there.